Hello, survivors. Thanks for joining us today. Before we begin, if you enjoy our stories, please subscribe to the channel. It really means a lot. Also, tell us in the comments which city you're listening from. It's great to see how far our community reaches. Now, let's start the story. The smell of pepperoni and burnt cheese usually meant the end of my shift. Tips in my pocket, heading home to crash. Not that day. That day, October 19th, the smell became synonymous with the end of everything else. I'm Alex, or I was, just another college kid slinging pies for Antonio's Authentic Pizzeria in Phoenix to pay tuition. My beat-up 98 Camry, affectionately nicknamed the Calzone, wasn't fast or pretty, but it knew the grid of suburban Phoenix like the back of its greasy steering wheel. That knowledge, and maybe a whole lot of dumb luck, is probably the only reason I'm telling this story instead of becoming part of the city-wide buffet. It started like any other Friday evening shift, chaos, but the normal kind. Phone ringing. Off the hook, orders backing up. Tony yelling at the cooks in his broken English laced with curses. Around 7 p.m., things got weird. The first sign was the news flickering on the small TV mounted near the ovens. Reports of aggressive incidents. Downtown, police urging residents to stay indoors. We mostly ignored it. Phoenix always had its share of crazies, especially when the heat lingered into October like it was that year. Then came the sirens. Not just one or two, but a constant, overlapping wail from every direction, growing closer. My delivery route took me across town, deep into a sprawling residential neighborhood near South Mountain. The address was 14 Elm Drive, 2 large pepperoni pizzas, extra cheese, side of garlic knots, easy money, usually a good tip from that area. As I drove, the radio cut out mid-song, replaced by the shriek of the emergency alert system. Unknown contagion, aggressive behavior, avoid contact, shelter in place. Then just static. My phone buzzed. A frantic text from my roommate, Ben. Dude, you okay? Shit's crazy here. PPL fighting in street, lockdown dorm. My reply wouldn't send. No signal. A knot tightened in my stomach. Turning onto Elm Drive felt like driving onto a movie set an hour after the director yelled, "Cut!" Cars were parked haphazardly, some with doors open, belongings spilling out. No people. Just an unnerving silence, broken by the distant sirens. I pulled up to number 14, a nice 2-story house with desert landscaping. Lights were on inside, but the front door was slightly ajar, swinging gently in the non-existent breeze. Not normal. I grabbed the pizza bags. Tony would kill me if I didn't at least try to deliver, and walked up the path. "Hello, pizza delivery," I called out, pushing the door open wider. The smell hit me first. Copper, iron, like a butcher shop left open in the August sun. The living room was dim, furniture overturned. A trail of dark, wet footprints led further, into the house. Every instinct screamed, "Get out!" But then I heard it, a whimper, soft, terrified, coming from upstairs. My heart hammered. A kid. I couldn't just leave. Flashlight app on my phone cutting a weak beam. I moved slowly through. The trashed living room, stepping over shattered picture frames. "Hello? Anyone need help?" The whimper came again, louder this time, from the top of the stairs, followed by a low growl, a sound that wasn't animal, wasn't human. My hand tightened on the only weapon I had, the heavy-duty flashlight. Tony made us carry. I crept up the stairs, each step creaking ominously. The smell of blood grew stronger. At the top landing, a door stood open to what looked like a child's bedroom. Inside, a little girl, maybe 7 or 8, huddled in the corner, clutching a stuffed unicorn. Standing over her, its back to me, was a figure. A man, judging by the clothes, but his posture was wrong. Hunched, head tilted unnaturally. He was making that low, guttural growling sound, reaching a blood-stained hand toward the terrified child. Without thinking, I charged. I brought the heavy flashlight down hard on the back of the man's head. He staggered, turning, and I got my first good look. His face was pale, waxy, veins dark under the skin. His eyes were milky white, pupils gone. Blood dripped from his mouth, staining his shirt. He snarled, a sound full of mindless rage, and lunged. I dodged back, swinging. The flashlight again, connecting with his temple. He stumbled but kept coming, inhuman strength behind his clumsy movements. The little girl screamed. I kicked out, catching him in the knee, sending him sprawling momentarily. "Run!" I yelled at the girl. "Get out of the house! Now!" She scrambled, past me as the thing on the floor clawed its way back up. It ignored the girl, its dead eyes fixed solely on me. It lunged again, faster this time. I sidestepped into the hallway, slamming the bedroom door shut, hoping to buy a few seconds. Heavy fists immediately pounded against the wood from the inside. Half fell, half ran down the stairs, nearly tripping over the pizza bags I'd dropped. The little girl was frozen by the front door, staring back toward the stairs. "Come on!" I grabbed her hand, pulling her out onto the porch. That's when we saw them. Drawn by the noise, maybe the smell of the pizza, 3 more figures were shambling up the driveway. An elderly woman in a bathrobe, a teenage boy on a skateboard moving with jerky pushes, and a mailman dragging his leg, all with the same gray skin, the same milky eyes. "The car!" I yelled, shoving the girl toward the calzone. I fumbled with my keys, adrenaline making my fingers useless. The infected from inside the house burst through the front door behind us, letting out a chilling shriek. The ones from the driveway broke into that horrifying, lurching run. The car key finally slid into the lock. I threw the passenger door open, pushed the girl inside. "Lock it! Stay down!" I scrambled into the driver's seat just as the first infected reached the car, slamming its fists against the window. The engine turned over, coughed, then roared to life. Thank God for reliable old Toyotas. I threw the car into reverse, tires squealing, knocking back the mailman thing. The house infected slammed onto the hood, cracking the windshield, its face pressed against the glass, snarling, snapping. I swerved, throwing it off, then gunned it down Elm Drive, away from the nightmare at number 14. The little girl who choked out her name was Maya, sobbed uncontrollably in the passenger seat. "My mommy. Daddy. We'll figure it out," I said, my voice hoarse, though I had no idea how. The main streets were out of the question. Sirens still wailed, but they sounded different now, more sporadic, often cutting off abruptly. Gunfire echoed, closer than before. The city was falling, fast. "Where are we going?" Maya cried. "Somewhere safe," I said, glancing at the Antonio's pizza sign still glowing on my car roof. An idea sparked. Tony, he was ex-military, always, talking about contingency plans, had reinforced shutters on the pizzeria, a generator in the back. It wasn't much, but it was concrete, brick, and run by a guy who probably owned more than just pizza ovens. "We're going back to Antonio's." Navigating. The side streets was a new kind of hell, more abandoned cars, more disturbing scenes glimpsed through house windows, shadows moving unnaturally, bloody handprints smeared on glass, and more infected. They seemed to be everywhere now, drawn by the sound of my engine, lurching out, of alleys, stumbling from yards. I drove aggressively, using the calzone like a battering ram when I had to, the sickening thud of bodies against metal becoming a horrifyingly familiar sound. Twice, windows cracked further under their impacts. We were maybe 10 blocks from the pizzeria when the flashing lights appeared behind us. Police, military. Hope surged briefly until the vehicle pulled alongside. It was an ambulance, lights, flashing, but the driver. His face was pressed against the windshield, gray and contorted, eyes milky white. He deliberately swerved, ramming the side of my Camry. Metal screamed. The calzone spun, hitting a parked car, the engine dying on. Impact. The ambulance crashed into a storefront a block down. Before I could even process what happened, the back doors of the ambulance burst open, and figures spilled out. Paramedics, maybe patients, all infected, all turning toward us. And from the surrounding streets, drawn by the crash, more were coming. "Out now!" I yelled at Maya, kicking my jammed door open. I pulled her out the driver's side, grabbing the tire iron I kept under the seat, my only real weapon now besides the heavy flashlight. We were surrounded, exposed, the Camry. Useless. The pizzeria was still blocks away. We were on foot, in the middle of a street rapidly filling with the dead. This wasn't just delivering pizzas anymore. This was delivering ourselves straight into hell. Panic threatened to overwhelm me. Trapped on foot, a terrified little girl, clinging to my hand, the dead closing in from all sides. The ambulance crash had been a dinner bell, and we were the main course. The smell of rot and decay was overpowering now, mixing with the smell of gasoline from ruptured tanks, and something else, something electrical burning. This way. I pulled Maya into a narrow alley between a laundromat and a check-cashing place. It reeked of stale beer and desperation, even before the apocalypse. We ran, stumbling over overflowing dumpsters and discarded needles. Behind us, the guttural moans grew louder as the infected squeezed into the alley entrance. The alley opened into a small enclosed service yard behind the shops. Loading docks, more dumpsters, and a high brick wall blocking the way to the next street. A dead end. No, 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 I muttered, scanning frantically. Up there, Maya pointed. A rusted fire escape zigzagged up the side of the laundromat building, leading to the roof. It looked ancient, ready to collapse, but it was our only option. Can you climb? I asked her. She nodded, eyes wide but determined. This kid had grit. Okay, stay right behind me. Don't look down. The fire escape groaned under my weight. Rusted bolts scraped against the brick. Below, the first infected stumbled into the service yard, looking up, moaning. I climbed faster, pulling Maya up behind me, ignoring the way the metal swayed precariously. We were maybe halfway up when a section of the ladder gave way beneath my foot. I slipped, crying out, dangling by one hand, my other arm instinctively shielding Maya below me. Infected clawed at the bottom rungs, trying to climb, their lack of coordination their only real weakness. One managed to pull itself onto the first, landing before the rusted metal collapsed under its weight, sending it tumbling back down onto its companions. Using pure adrenaline, I found another handhold and hauled myself and Maya upward. We reached the roof just as more infected poured. Into the yard below, we lay flat on the hot tar paper, gasping for air, watching the dead mill around beneath us. The rooftop offered a terrifying panorama of the collapsing city. Smoke plumed from dozens of locations. Helicopters, news and military, crisscrossed the sky, occasionally dipping low, unleashing bursts of gunfire that seemed utterly futile against the sheer scale of the chaos. The constant background noise was a blend of sirens, alarms, screams, gunfire, and the omnipresent chilling moans of the infected. We need to keep moving, I said, getting my breath back. They might figure out how to get up here eventually. We crawled across the flat roof toward the front of the building, overlooking the main street. Antonio's was visible from here, just 3 blocks down, an island of normalcy with its cheerful red and green sign, though the windows were dark. But the street between us and the pizzeria was a river of the dead. Hundreds, maybe thousands, surging back and forth, drawn by distant explosions, or the screams of the unlucky. Crossing that street was impossible. The tunnels, Maya whispered, pointing toward a large grate near the curb below. My dad worked for the city. He said old maintenance tunnels run under most of downtown. Tunnels. Dark, confined, probably, flooded, maybe already full of infected, but potentially a way past the horde on the street. It was another terrible gamble. Do you know where the access points are? I asked. She nodded. There's one near the library, 2 blocks that way. She pointed south, away from Antonio's, but also away from the thickest concentration of infected currently flowing past us. Another desperate choice. Try for the known quantity of Antonio's through an ocean of death, or risk the unknown darkness of the tunnels? I looked at Maya's small, determined face. She'd already saved us once with her quick thinking about the fire escape. Okay, I decided. Tunnels it is, but we need weapons. My tire iron and flashlight weren't going to cut it. My eyes scanned the rooftop. Air conditioning units, ventilation shafts, satellite dishes, and there, near the edge, apparently dropped or forgotten by someone fleeing earlier, a baseball bat, aluminum, solid, better than nothing. I grabbed it. Stick close, we find a way down on the other side, away from the main street. We found another fire escape at the rear of the building, this one leading down into a relatively clear alley. We descended quickly, dropping the last 10 feet. Back at street level, the sounds were more intense, the smell worse. We moved cautiously, sticking to alleys and side streets, heading toward the library Maya had indicated. We encountered scattered infected, dispatching them quickly and quietly with the bat and tire iron whenever necessary. Headshots. Always headshots. It felt brutal, sickeningly personal, smashing skulls that used to hold thoughts and memories, but it was the only way. The library square was chaos. People fighting infected, people fighting each other over scavenged supplies from abandoned emergency vehicles. Gunfire erupted sporadically. A police car lay overturned, burning. We skirted the edge looking for the tunnel access Maya described. There! She pointed to a heavy metal manhole cover set into the sidewalk near the library steps, slightly hidden by an overgrown bush. Using the tire iron, I managed to pry it open. The stench that rose from below was foul, a mix of sewage and decay. "You sure about this?" I asked Maya, peering into the blackness. She nodded, clutching her unicorn. "Dad said they connect all the way to the old power station near the river. The river was miles away, but it was a direction, a potential escape route away from the collapsing city center. Okay, in you go. I'm right behind you." She hesitated, for only a second, then took a deep breath and climbed down the rusted ladder into the darkness. Just as I started to follow, a shout came from across the square. "Hey! You! Stop!" 2 police officers looking exhausted and battle-worn were running toward us, weapons raised. Behind them, more infected were emerging from the library's shattered front doors. "We're survivors," I yelled back. "There's too many. Get to the tunnel." They ignored me, firing at the infected pouring from the library, but it was too late. The horde swarmed them, dragging them down in a flurry of teeth and claws. Their screams joined the city's dying chorus. No time left. I pulled the heavy manhole cover back into place, the clang echoing in the sudden darkness of the tunnel. Below, Maya's small shape was barely visible in the gloom. We could hear the infected pounding on the cover above us, their snarling muffled but terrifyingly close. We were underground now, in the city's forgotten underbelly, trading the visible, horror above for an unknown, potentially worse one below. But we were moving, and right now that was all that mattered. The first day wasn't over yet, and the tunnels stretched before us like an open grave. The tunnel was worse than I could have imagined, pitch black beyond the weak beam of my phone's dying flashlight, cramped, echoing, and smelling like death had taken a bath in sewage. Water, thick with unseen filth, sloshed around our ankles. Maya stayed close, clutching my hand, her stuffed unicorn tucked inside her shirt. Her initial terror had subsided, replaced by a kind of numb shock I recognized from soldiers after intense firefights. Kids are resilient, sometimes disturbingly so. We moved slowly, following the main conduit, using the faded directional arrows stenciled on the concrete walls that Maya vaguely remembered her dad mentioning. The sounds from above were muffled now, but the pounding on the manhole cover we'd entered through echoed for a long time before fading. We weren't being followed immediately, but the thought of those things potentially finding other access points down here kept us moving. "Are there others down here?" Maya whispered after a long period of silence, her voice startlingly loud in the confined space. "Hope not, kiddo," I replied, sweeping the light ahead. The beam caught glinting eyes. In the darkness, rats, hundreds of them, flowing around obstacles, ignoring us. A good sign, maybe? Or just a sign that something worse hadn't found its way down yet. The tunnel network was a maze, Junctions branched off in multiple directions, some flooded, some blocked by cave-ins or debris. Twice we took wrong turns, ending up in dead-end maintenance shafts before backtracking. My phone battery was flashing red. The flashlight wouldn't last much longer. "We need to find another access ladder soon," I said, trying to keep the worry out of my voice. "Get back topside, see if we can find a working vehicle, maybe some supplies." Antonio's felt like a distant memory, an impossible goal now. "The power station," Maya repeated. "Dad said the tunnels run right underneath it. There are big grates for airflow." It was still miles away, according to the emergency map I'd half-glimpsed back at Antonio's before fleeing. Miles of crawling through this filth with dwindling light and the constant threat of the unknown lurking around the next bend. We pressed on. The air grew staler, heavier. We passed side tunnels marked with faded biohazard symbols. Old runoff? From the hospital, probably. Best avoided. Then we heard it again, scraping sounds ahead. Different from the rats. Heavier. Metal on concrete. We froze, cutting the light. Silence. Then the scraping resumed, closer now, accompanied by a low, wet clicking sound. My hand tightened on the baseball bat I'd scavenged. Maya squeezed my koi. Hand so hard her knuckles went white. Something shuffled into the edge of the darkness just beyond our position. The clicking grew louder. I risked a brief flash of light. It wasn't one of the standard infected. Taller, thinner, moving with a strange insect-like fluidity. Its limbs seemed too long, jointed in the wrong places. Its head swiveled, emitting the clicking sound, like some kind of grotesque echolocation. It hadn't seen us, but it was sensing us. This was one of the other things the news reports had vaguely hinted at. A mutation? Or something else entirely that had crawled up from whatever depths these tunnels reached? It took a step closer, clicking rapidly. We couldn't stay. "Here," I nudged Maya gently. "Back," I mouthed silently. Slowly. We retreated inch by painful inch, trying not to make a sound in the ankle-deep water. The clicking thing hesitated, head swiveling, then continued its slow advance down the main tunnel, moving past the junction we'd just backed out. We waited, hidden in the side passage, until its clicking faded into the distance. "What was that?" Maya breathed, her voice trembling. "Don't know," I admitted honestly. "And I don't want to find out." We needed to get out of these tunnels now. We took a different fork, hoping it led upward. Luck was finally with us. After another 100 yards, the tunnel sloped sharply up, ending at the base of another rusted ladder. Faint daylight filtered down from a manhole cover far above. "Okay," I said, "listen carefully. I go up first. Check if it's clear. If it is, I'll signal. 1 knock clear. 2 knocks danger, stay put. Got it?" She nodded, clutching her unicorn. I climbed the ladder, baseball bat tucked into my belt, tire iron in hand. The manhole cover was heavy, rusted shut. I put my shoulder into it, straining. It didn't budge. I tried the tire iron, wedging it into the rim, levering with all my strength. Metal groaned, rust flaked off. Finally, with a screech, it moved, sliding aside just enough for me to peer out. Empty street, or mostly empty. We were in an industrial area, warehouses, loading docks, chain-link fences. No immediate infected in sight, but the distant sounds of chaos were still audible. I gave one sharp knock on the ladder rung. Maya scrambled up quickly. We emerged into the hazy afternoon sunlight, blinking against the sudden brightness. It felt like escaping a tomb. The air, even tainted with smoke, smelled impossibly fresh after the tunnels. We quickly slid the manhole cover back into place, hoping to obscure our exit point. "Where are we?" Maya asked, looking around at the unfamiliar industrial landscape. I scanned the buildings, looking for street signs, landmarks. A faded sign. On a nearby warehouse read, "Phoenix Cold Storage West Facility." West. We'd been heading south and east in the tunnels, trying to get away from the west side where Antonio's was. We were completely turned around, miles from where I thought we were, and likely miles further from any potential safe zone like Springfield. But then I saw it. parked near the loading dock of the cold storage facility, looking abandoned but miraculously intact. A refrigerated box truck, the kind used for delivering frozen goods. Keys were probably long gone, but those things were diesel, usually left unlocked and not impossible to hotwire if you knew how. Something my less-than-legal teenage years had unfortunately taught me. And the refrigerated unit. It might still have power, or at least insulation. It was another gamble, but it beat walking. "Stay here," I told Maya, pointing to a stack of pallets that offered cover. "Keep hidden. I'm gonna check out that truck." As I approached the truck, keeping low, checking angles, the sheer exhaustion of the past 12 hours hit me like a physical blow. Delivering pizzas seemed like a lifetime ago. Surviving the initial outbreak, navigating the blocked highway, escaping the collapsing hospital, facing horrors in the tunnels. It had all led to this. Alone with a traumatized kid in an abandoned industrial park, trying to hotwire a frozen fish truck, while the world burned down around us. This first day had pushed me far beyond anything I thought I could handle. But looking back at Maya, clutching her unicorn behind the pallets, I knew I had to keep going. Failure wasn't an option. Not anymore.